I'm Michelle Young, and I'd like to welcome you to Advanced Anatomy. Today we're going to be looking at the basic anatomical structures of the human body, and we're going to talk a little bit about the way that we use these structures to identify alignment in our students. But first, let's take a look at the skeletal system. The human skeleton is comprised of two separate skeletons on top of each other. The axial skeleton is the fish skeleton, and it is the tailbone, the spine, and the head. The appendicular skeleton is composed of the pelvic girdle, legs and feet, and the shoulder girdle, arms and hands. The axial skeleton contains our organs and helps us to walk upright. The appendicular skeleton is responsible for locomotion and movement. As we move and breathe in our experience, we move energy through the tissues of our bodies. This brings us to the yogic philosophy of the Panchamaya Kosha system. The Panchamaya Kosha system is a system where the human body is looked at as energetic sheaths. The Annamaya Kosha is the physical body, and it's made up of the food that we eat. The Pranamaya Kosha is the energetic body, and it's made up of the energetic components derived from the food we eat. The Manomaya Kosha is the mental body, and it is comprised of the neurological pathways in the mind. Vijnanamaya Kosha is the intellectual body, and it is the window to the causal plane. The Anandamaya Kosha is the bliss body, or the seat of the soul. And together, these energetic bodies provide us with our experience. As a yoga teacher, we need to be able to look at the physical body as well as discern how the energy is flowing within our students' experience. We do this by looking at joint systems within the body. The major joint systems in the body that we are concerned with as teachers of yoga would be the pelvic girdle and the shoulder girdle. The appendicular skeleton is where most of our movement is coming from. That is why these are the primary joint systems that we deal with in yoga. The pelvic girdle is comprised of the iliac bone, the pubic bone, and the ischium, or the sit bones. Two sides of the pelvis come together and are connected at the pubic symphysis and the sacrum. This gives us the structure that we need to walk upright. The femur is the long bone of the thigh, and it fits into the hip socket, or the acetabulum. When the femur head is inside the hip socket, or the acetabulum, this creates a ball and socket joint. It's also a synovial joint filled with synovial fluid, and it has the greatest range of motion. Our shoulder girdle is comprised of the sternum, the clavicle, and the scapula, along with the humeral head. The sternoclavicular joint leads us to the scapular-clavicular joint, which leads us to the glenoid-humeral joint. Together, these joint structures provide the scaffolding for our shoulder girdle. When we are moving in and out of yoga asana, we are either moving from the pelvis or the shoulders. If we are in standing asana, chances are we're going to be moving first from the pelvis. Now, of course, the shoulders are involved when we raise the arms to add weight to the pose. But obviously, this can be modified if your students are experiencing dis-ease in the shoulder girdle, like shoulder impingement. Shoulder impingement occurs when the ligaments and soft tissue around the shoulder girdle become stressed or strained. This stress or strain begins to cause inflammation and makes raising the arm painful. When students experience this, it's a good idea to begin to modify so they don't exacerbate that injury. The bones move in two orientations in our yoga asana practice. Our long bones are either in a neutral position or external rotation. When our long bones are in neutral position in the hip socket, our toes are pointing forward of the pelvis. When our legs are in external rotation, our toes are pointing away from the pelvis. You could think first position. Our arms similarly externally rotate and lie in a neutral position. When we are in Tadasana, arms down to the sides, palms facing in towards the middle of your body, this would be a neutral orientation of the humerus. When the palms are facing out, this is external rotation of the humerus. It's important to understand neutral rotation and external rotation so that you can better understand what is happening in our asana practice. Anytime two bones come together and are joined by ligaments, we have a joint. Some joints move and some joints don't. There are 6 major types of joints. We have planar joints or sliding joints. We have hinge joints. We have ball and socket joints. We have pivot joints. We have condyloid joints. And we have saddle joints. Muscles attach to bones with tendons. Muscles allow you to move your bones around the 3 planes of movement. Muscles can be brought into flexion through a contraction of the muscle fiber or extension when a release of the contraction occurs. As we move our muscles, we move prana through the different nadi systems within the body. There are 72,000 nadis in the body. Of these nadis, the most important for our yoga practice would be the Sushumna, the Ida, and the Pingala. The Sushumna is the central nadi that runs parallel to the spinal column. The Ida runs to the left, and the Pingala runs to the right. There are interlacing junctions in between each of the chakra systems. Although these 3 nadis are the most important for our asana and pranayama practice, the other gross nadis in the body need to be cleansed and aligned as well. And we do that through the practice of physical asana. The postural alignment of our skeleton is designed so that we have 3 curves in our spinal column. The primary curve is present at birth, and as we grow and develop our muscles and become more interactive in gravity, we develop secondary curves. The first secondary curve we develop is the cervical spine. As we begin to sit up and learn to walk, we develop the lumbar spine. Our primary curve can still be seen in the thoracic spine. The shoulders are designed to stack directly over the pelvis. Sometimes postural patterns prevent this from happening. This occurs when we have anterior or posterior tilt. In anterior tilt, the pelvis is shifted forward, and this exacerbates the lumbar curve. In posterior tilt, the pelvis shifts backwards, and this decreases or minimalizes the natural lumbar curve of the spine. Understanding these anatomical cues will help you to read your students' bodies more efficiently.